Now is the time to collect Xbox games. Let me explain on a new episode of Bargain Game Hunter 101. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll probably know that even though I do collect on pretty much every platform, at heart, I'm primarily an Xbox gamer. I have owned the original Xbox in 2004, which was a darn good year for it because I got to play Halo 2 as well as Fable when they came out. Since then, I've really enjoyed the Xbox platform. I got a 360 in 2006, a little bit after launch, like a few months after launch. I got an Xbox One at launch. I got an Xbox One X the week of launch, and I got an Xbox Series X at launch. So clearly I enjoy my Xbox. I think it's a great platform. The controller is the best there is for shooters. I love the offset sticks. It just plays well. Xbox Live is the best online service. And of course, Microsoft puts out some really quality titles to enhance that experience with franchises like Gears of War, Halo, Forza Horizon, etc. But now we're in kind of a weird transitional period when it comes to Xbox. Of course, the Series X is not performing as well as Microsoft or really anybody would like it to. It's still a good platform and it's still selling well. It's just not competing with the PlayStation 5 or with the Nintendo Switch. But Microsoft has started to make a shift in their strategy. Of course, with the launch of Xbox Game Pass, they've kind of been focusing more on the subscription model and allowing players to play their games on as many platforms as possible, rather than focusing specifically on selling hardware units on their Xbox platforms. So we're now starting to see Xbox published games, not just from Bethesda and Activision, mind you, but Xbox Game Studios published games like Forza Horizon 5 coming out on PlayStation 5. They also partnered with Limited Run, who is releasing several other games like Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush. There's a few other games that are coming out on multiple platforms, not just the Xbox or PC. So it begs the question, if Xbox themselves are kind of jumping ship, why would you want to jump in now? Why would you want to be buying your Xbox games now? Well, there's a very good reason for it, and it's mostly the fact that I have a very sneaking suspicion, and I'm not alone in this, that Xbox is currently developing a new console. That's not a shock. They've actually already said that they're developing a new hardware, and a lot of people are saying it's going to release sometime in 2027. So, if that is the case, I would not be surprised if Xbox uses this next hardware revision as an excuse to stop releasing physical games. And the main reason why I say that is look at their current releases when it comes to Xbox Game Studios published games. One big example of this is Avowed. This is a game that came out in February of 2025. It's a Obsidian developed RPG. It got a lot of hype. It was announced several years ago. People were quite excited about it. No physical release. None. It is digital only. You can play it on Game Pass if you have Game Pass, or you can buy it separately. It is still an Xbox exclusive, but you cannot play Avowed if you want a physical copy. There is no physical option. They did release a collector's edition, but it's one of those stupid collector's editions that includes a download code and a steelbook. Not sure why they bothered, but if you want a physical version of Avowed, that's how you can do it. It's not really a physical version of Avowed. Another game that's coming out very soon is South of Midnight, which is the first-party developed game by the We Happy Few developers at Compulsion Games. They're releasing a new game. It looks really good. No physical release announced. So, to me, this is starting to indicate, and plus, in addition to that, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which was a game that came out in December of 2024. Now, this is a Bethesda release, mind you, but still, it's worth noting. They did a collector's edition of Indiana Jones that did not come with a disc. It was digital only for the collector's edition. It did do a physical disc, but only for the standard or premium editions, not for the big fancy collector's edition. And that's something they've been doing a lot lately. Starfield also had a digital code as opposed to a physical disc. So if you wanted the disc, you had to double dip and buy a disc in addition to the collector's edition. So with all that evidence in mind, it makes you really start to believe that Xbox is kind of done making physical discs, which is unfortunate. I think they're underestimating how much power having that physical disc really gives you, as well as what services it offers to your consumers. Now, I mean, and this is a common thing with the gaming industry. A lot of games are releasing digital only. Now, granted, we have fought back and we have won several instances. The best examples of this are Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2. These are two games that originally released digital only, and the internet essentially not bullied them, but they convinced them that they needed to do physical releases, and we got them, and I actually own both copies. I waited to play both of those games because I wanted a physical copy. Now, I have played Avowed. It is on Game Pass. I've also played Indiana Jones, also on Game Pass. So I don't have to wait to play those games because I can just download them and play them on Game Pass. But so far, I mean, we're going on almost a month since Avowed came out. They have not announced any kind of physical copy. Now, that being said, there's a chance that we could see like a limited run or a fan gamer do a physical copy. They did that with Psychonauts 2. We got a fan gamer release of it. So it's not out of the question that we might get physical copies of South of Midnight and Avowed. We just don't know. And there's a chance they might never come out physically. Hellblade 2 is another first-party game that did not get a physical release. So a lot of these first-party Xbox games are just not coming out on disc. And it's a concerning trend, not only for fans of game preservation, but also because if you are a Xbox collector like myself, there's a lot of games you're just not going to be able to add to your physical collection. And that leads me to third parties. So because Microsoft themselves doesn't appear to be super interested in releasing first-party Xbox games on disc, what motivation do third-party publishers have to do the same thing? One of the best examples of this is the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. Now, that game infamously did not get a release at launch on Xbox platforms. That was mostly because there was some sort of technical issue with the NT Framework engine on Xbox platforms. That did get resolved, and that game is out on Xbox, but it only got a digital release. And there's a number of other games that are not getting physical releases on Xbox. They're skipping physical entirely, or if they do get a physical release, they're getting them on PlayStation 5, PS4 maybe, or Switch. So a lot of people are just not interested in releasing physical copies of games on Xbox platforms. And to me, as someone who follows the game industry and someone who collects Xbox games, obviously that's a major concern. It signals that it's going to become a lot tougher to find physical Xbox games in the wild. And that's why I wanted to make this video, and that's why I wanted to talk about why now is the time to pick up physical Xbox games, because I have a sneaking suspicion in the not too distant future, they're going to become really hard to come by. Now, the first thing I want to mention is new release games. Now, obviously, when it comes to big games like your Maddens, your Call of Duties, those are not going to be hard to find. You're going to be able to find those everywhere. They'll come out on every platform. You can buy a physical disc anywhere you want to. However, there are certain games and certain genres that are going to be pretty tricky to find physically, especially on Xbox platforms, because Xbox, like I've mentioned, is kind of trying to phase out physical games. Let me give you a recent example of a game that I'm kind of surprised came out on Xbox and I had to buy immediately. And that was the Suikoden 1 and 2 remaster. Now, this game could have very easily just been a digital-only release on Xbox. However, they did do a physical copy, and I bought it day one because I have a very sneaking suspicion of all the versions of that game, the Xbox version is probably going to be the hardest to find because they didn't release them a bunch or didn't do a reprint. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of games. Another recent example of this with a game I don't own and I actually have been hunting for a little while, Lies of P on the Xbox. Now, Lies of P did launch into Game Pass, which is great, and it's not in Game Pass anymore, so if you didn't finish it in Game Pass, you have to buy it on the digital store or try to track down a physical copy. And good luck trying to track down a physical copy, because anytime you see that game, it's always on PlayStation 5. They never have the Xbox copy. Every now and again, you'll find it on PS4, but you're mostly going to find the PS5 copy because that's the platform that it sells best on. The Xbox copy is very hard to find. If you go on eBay or Amazon, most copies on Xbox are selling for like $100 plus. So it's a tricky game to find, and it's not the first time this has happened. There have been several instances where a fairly new game that came out within the last year became very hard to find on one platform, specifically Xbox. One genre that I will always recommend you buy if you want to play it on your chosen platform, buy it at launch and get it right away, because if you don't, good luck. JRPGs. They already don't release a lot of JRPGs on Xbox, and when they do, you're going to want to snag them, because the platform, obviously, it's going to sell the best on. It's going to be Japanese published games, so PlayStation or Switch. So when a JRPG like Suikoden or something else may come out on Xbox, it's probably a good idea to grab it if you want to play it on Xbox. One example that was kind of interesting at the end of last year was Persona 3 Reload. That game came out in early 2024, and it proceeded to go on sale fairly frequently. But at the end of the year, they did a big holiday sale on just PS4 and PS5, not the Xbox version. And what became apparent is the Xbox version became really tough to find. Thankfully, Sega is pretty good at taking care of reprints, so they did do a reprint of the Xbox version, and I actually have a brand new sealed copy of it now on Xbox. But that game for a while was really hard to come by and was selling at like $70, $80 almost a year after it came out on Xbox because you couldn't find it. So the moral of the story here, if you are an Xbox collector, and you probably already know this, you need to pick up your games when they come out. And I know people don't like pre-ordering and they don't like paying full price for games, but if it's a game you really want to play or you really want to have in your collection, I would still grab it. If you don't want to pay full price for a game, technically full price, do what I do. Go game hunting, find some games you can trade into GameStop, and then buy it with credit. That's kind of the best way to do it. That way you're not paying full price and you're going to get the game you want when it comes out, which is great. Now, on the flip side, we have older Xbox games, especially on the Xbox One. One thing that I've noticed over the past few years of game hunting is that Xbox One games tend to be cheaper than PS4. And GameStop is a great indicator of this. When you look at trade-in values, they always want PS4 copies of games or Switch copies of games over Xbox. Xbox copies are usually a couple bucks cheaper when it comes to what they'll give you for trade-in value, because Xbox games just aren't selling nearly as well. A lot of GameStops have much smaller Xbox sections than they do PlayStation or Switch, because again, the Xbox games just aren't selling quite as well as PlayStation and Switch. So now is kind of a good time to pick up those titles that might not necessarily be hard to find at the lowest price, because a lot of places aren't putting a premium on Xbox One games especially. It's a pretty cheap platform to collect on. You can get some really quality titles. A lot of the same stuff you can get on PS4, you can also get on Xbox, but for cheaper. So, and the other nice thing too is with Xbox One games, a lot of them are Xbox Series enhanced, whether it's better frame rate, better, slightly better graphics, you name it. So, yeah, it's a good time to be an Xbox collector on the Xbox One because those games are fairly cheap and not difficult to come by. As opposed to the Series X, where if you're trying to pick up the newest and greatest, it's going to be a lot harder to pick up those games on Xbox because they're starting to release a lot less physical games, and even Microsoft is not releasing physical games on their own platform, which is a huge concern. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and like I'm going to wrap up with here, if you are an Xbox collector or you have any interest in collecting for Xbox, don't wait to pick up your new release games. Honestly, I would pre-order them. One example of this, Split Fiction, a game that literally just came out. I have 2 GameStops that I go to on a fairly regular basis. Neither of them got a single copy of Split Fiction for Xbox. They got PS5 copies, but not a single copy for Xbox. You have to pre-order your Xbox games if you want to have them, because the days of constantly just being able to walk into a store and get the game you want without pre-ordering are over for a lot of games, especially these smaller games, and especially on Xbox specifically. Unless it's a giant title like Madden or Call of Duty, I would pre-order it, because if not, good luck. You'll probably have to try to find it on Amazon or eBay or wherever you can find it, because it's going to be tricky. Another example of this is Kingdom Come Deliverance. I did finally find an Xbox copy in the wild of that game, but when it first came out, I could only find PS5 copies. Same with Civilization 7, another new release game. It came out on Xbox physically, but no stores had it. It was just a PS5 copy. So, pre-order your Xbox games for new release stuff, buy them when they come out, and enjoy it while it lasts, because I have a very sneaking suspicion that our days of being able to physically collect Xbox games may be over before we want them to be. So that's just how it is. Nothing we can really do about it except continue to buy physical games, and hopefully if people continue to buy Xbox games and continue to talk to Microsoft and explain to them why physical discs matter in today's gaming industry, maybe we can convince them otherwise. But right now, it's going to be a tough call to hopefully save physical games on Xbox. So yeah, that's going to do it for this episode of Bargain Game Hunter 101. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell. That way you know when new videos drop. And I will see you on a future episode of Bargain Game Hunter 101. Bye-bye.